Good morning, YouTube. I got stupid news on again. I say I don't watch the news, but it's the first thing I put on every morning. Hey ho. I've just been listening to them talking about Jerry and the Pacemakers and how he's died and stuff. And interestingly, because Captain Tom did that song in his thing. More coffee. And it got me thinking about, if you hadn't realised by now, I'm a big thinker. And it got me thinking about how we'll never walk alone, but how that's quite the opposite for a barking dog owner, because we're we're constantly out in the hills, hiding away, trying to prevent the dog from seeing anything, and we avoid. Now, avoidance, oh, excuse my knee there, did you hear that? Fucking falling to pieces. Which got me thinking about the avoidance stage and how it's very handy to avoid stuff so we can decompress the dog and chill them out, you know, just to empty their bucket sort of thing. But people get stuck here. People get stuck in this phase, and they turn into what is most commonly known as like the ninja stage. There's a dog there. Oh God, where can I go? What drive can I go? Oh my God, what have I got around me? I'm going to turn around and run away. Which you can't do forever. You cannot do that forever. It's not logical. That's not why you get a dog, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not why you get a dog. Now, as it stands, the whole going out on a walk with a dog, to me, is not a priority for me. And I know that sounds really random. I do not prioritize taking my dogs out for a walk every single day. And not just every single time a day, every single time. Every 3 times some dogs are going out there. And I don't do it. Don't do it. I used to take them out, but I wouldn't go on like a walk. You know, I wouldn't go on like a normal walk. Sometimes I would. I'm going around the house, there's some randomness here. Don't get me wrong, I like going on a walk. And if I do go on a walk, it tends to be in hilly places where there's not many people around, and that's more for my benefit than it is the dog. When I go out on a walk with my dog, I like it to be just me and my dog, or there'll be a friend with me. I don't like going to places. I don't take my dog to a place where they can go and play with their friends, is what I'm trying to get at before having enough coffee. And there's a whole other topic in itself there, in that dogs don't need other dog friends. I'll come to that another time. But when it comes to walking alone, and as Jerry and the Pacemakers say, you'll never walk alone, but let's look at it realistically. We are walking alone, and there are people out there who would love to be able to go on a walk with other people and their dogs, who would love to be able to, let's say, go out the front door and go on a walk without being bombarded by distractions and the dog kicking up a right fuss. I get that. I've lived in a house where I've had to walk them from the front door, although admittedly it was often from the front door to the car and then to the hills. But we walk alone, and getting stuck in this, which is what this topic was about. More coffee. Which is what this topic was about. Avoidance is useful, you know. If you're the type of person who's seeing these distractions and getting anxious or thinking, oh God, when's it going to happen? You know, like you're preparing for battle, then you shouldn't be stuck in this phase. I mean, if anything, like I think the big worry when you're out there is getting interrupted. For a lot of owners, I think it's quite common knowledge now that distance is a big factor to help the dog not react. Although for some it isn't. So if you didn't know that, then there is a right golden nugget for you today. Distance is key. But there are times when we get interrupted, and there are times where we have to turn a corner and boom, there's something there. So why don't we work on getting your dog to a point where they can cope with that one-off, what's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean? Why don't we get them so they can cope with that? You know, if you live in an area where you come across the occasional off-lead dog that comes and interrupts you, then we can most certainly get you to a point of being able to deal with that. If you live in a busy area, it's not to say that that's impossible either. We can build your dog up to be able to deal with, oh, there's a dog over there, but I can manage. I can see it, I can look away. I can see it, I can come to heel. I can see it, I can, I don't know, what do you want a dog to do? Carry a toy. Although there's some sort of coping mechanisms in there sometimes. But what I'm getting at is we can teach your dog an alternative to do. And you don't have to hide away for the rest of your life with your barking dog. So, I'm going to keep it short and sweet this morning. But if you are in like full-on avoidance stage and perhaps you do get in a panic when you see distractions out there, then for God's sake, go and get help. Go and seek professional help. Don't go to the fucking Google boys, because you'll be absolutely bombarded with information, most of which is wrong, and most of which is, oh, it's snowing again. Don't go to Google. Go and see a qualified professional who deals in reactivity, who can help you with your dog. And really look at your trainer as well. Look at your trainer, look at how they work, look at how, look at their own dogs, look at what qualifications they've got, make sure they're insured. You would not believe, and here's another topic, you would not believe how unregulated the industry is. Like my neighbour, who is, I don't know, what, she's 70 odd, she could go out and set up as a dog trainer tomorrow. She could get a lead, she could get some treats, a treat pouch, and she could go out there and say, yes, I can train dogs. There's no regulation for it. So make sure you choose your trainer wisely. If the way I work is that I take things slowly, I want to see the dog. I want to get to know the dog. I want to know what they like and what they don't like. I want to see how worried or how worked up or how overexcited they get just in the environment first. Then I want to see what they're like with a dog, a fake dog, to start with. And I'll tell you why I start with a fake dog, is because I don't know what that dog can do. I don't know how severe that dog's behaviour is. And as it stands, I don't deal in full-on aggression. So, if I bring that fake dog out and that dog annihilates that stuffed dog, because it sounds silly, but they do view it as a real dog for about 30 seconds, sometimes longer. Sometimes they're just like, it's a toy. But I do not put my dogs into a situation with a new dog that I don't know before I see what they're like. Does that make sense? So make sure that you really assess what your trainer does and how they work. And a good question to ask is, what happens to my dog if they get something wrong? What happens if they absolutely kick off lunging and barking and grab hold of the stuffed dog and they rip its neck out? Which, by the way, my working line border terrier did when I was doing desensitization work with him. That's why I bring the fake dog out, because there is not a cat in hell's chance I'm putting one of my real dogs into a situation with a dog that is capable of doing that, let me tell you. So yeah, ask your trainer, what happens if my dog gets it wrong? What happens if they make a mistake? What happens if they lunge out and grab the stuffed dog? What happens if they perhaps lunge out and snap at me, for example? What happens? and see what they say. I mean, for my answers on that, if I owned, let me start that again, more coffee. If a dog like Digger, who ripped the stuffed dog's neck out, came to me on an initial session, I would send them to someone else, because I do not deal in that level of behaviour. And I'm talking serious behaviour. Like, I own one of those dogs, not anymore, he wouldn't do it anymore, but I don't deal in that. Because I would hate to get that wrong, if that makes sense. I would hate to be able to put that dog in a situation where I perhaps missed something and they lunged out. And there's all sorts of factors why I don't deal in that level of aggression from a dog. But if they kick off barking, if perhaps the owner misses a chance to reward the right stuff, or let's say they dragged their owner over and they did jump up and try to nip me, or got frustrated, what would happen? Well, let's start again. Go a bit further back, I'll move further out the way, and let's set them up for success. Let's make sure that they can't be in that situation again until they're ready to be able to be in that situation again. So, I've come around the houses a bit there. Don't constantly feel like you have to avoid life forever, because you don't. There's a classic story, and it's one I tell of Ollie. Ollie is a little cute little ginger Staffordshire Bull Terrier, and he was just under one, or just one, when he came to me. Like, he was probably the most nervous dog I'd seen, in that he just did not want to be there. Like, he first came to mine, he was shaking, and he wouldn't give me direct eye contact. He wouldn't take any treats or stuff off his owner initially. And we worked through things with Ollie, and he came to me lunging and barking at other dogs. When he was out on the street, he would lunge and bark at the dogs, and his owner couldn't control him, and she actually said that she was worried because he was starting to show aggression. As it stands, his came from nervousness, not serious, I want to nail you, like Digger would. Digger's like, I'm going to kill you, I don't care what size you are. But we worked Ollie through the programme, we built his confidence, we introduced him to the real life settings where there were distractions around. And long story short, when we worked through the programme, on one of the first, probably the second session back after lockdown, we were out in Buxton and we were training, and what I do is I work the dogs up to be able to deal with my clients' dogs, who are all striving for the same thing. You know, they're working on their recall, or they're working on their reactivity, or they're loose lead walking, or whatever. So the person who's coming into the group knows that those people have got control of their dog, basically, and that they're not going to get interrupted by us. However, when we work in real life settings, we are up against the distraction element, and we're up against different factors and harder, higher level distractions. So, long story short, these two dogs, off lead, out of control dogs, I think one was a retriever and one was like a French bulldog type, went bolting over to Ollie. Owners like calling them aimlessly with absolutely no listening skills from the dogs. And the first thought I remember is, oh shit. So I bolted over there, the dogs were circling around Ollie, they were barking at him. I thought, oh, he's going to go. Didn't go. And that was because I think myself and Ollie's owner were more worried about the situation than Ollie was, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And anyway, we got hold of these dogs. The owner took them off after a little bit of a word from me, get your dogs trained. And Ollie kind of like looked around and was like, "Boo," shook it off, and then looked straight back at his owner like, right, what are we doing? That's huge. That is fucking huge. So we can build. Now, if that happened every day, Ollie would likely revert. And, you know, he'd start getting panicky again. But because that was a one-off incident, and because his owner had built the bank of hey, you're all right, we've built your confidence, you can see that, and we've counter-conditioned the process, like it's not that big a deal, he was able to deal with that one-off situation. So don't go around with your barking dog thinking that you have to avoid life and real life forever, because you don't. Go and get professional help with your dogs, for God's sake, because if you don't, and you have to constantly keep avoiding stuff for life, then sooner or later you're going to come up against, oh, good morning, Sky's got up and she's like, Mummy, I want to come into the lounge. You're going to come up against a situation where you're going to get something like that, and because you haven't prepared your dog for that and done nothing about it, they're gonna lunge out, and they're gonna eventually learn to snap to get them to go away, or they're going to be snapped at because they're too overexcited and they're considered rude. All right, baby, I'm coming, 1 second. So yeah, go and get help. I'm gonna go and get Sky in because she obviously wants to come in for coffees and cuddles now she's got her ass out of bed. And I'll see you on tomorrow's chat. Bye bye. What you got? It's like I'm awake now, Mum. How's the playtime? Where's your toy?